Hello there people. I decided to film a quick lesson video for the song Into Eternity by Lost Society and Apocalyptica. So the tuning of the song is drop C, which means that you have to tune your guitar a whole step down from E standard, which would make it a D standard, and then the bottom string, your lower E string, you have to tune another whole step, which is another 2 frets lower, and that makes it a C, drop C. Okay, let's get it. So, the first guitar plays on the lower E string and the D string. So, on the E string you put your finger on the 3rd fret, and on the D string you put your finger on the 2nd fret and you play this. Then there's a slight change. Instead of playing the lower E, you just move to an open A string. So you do this. Here's the change. It's open. Then you put your finger on the 3rd fret of that A string and you play this. And then you switch back a bit lower to, again, the lower E string, but this time to the 2nd fret. And notice the whole time you keep the 2nd fret on the D string playing. So the only change is with the lower string that you're playing, so it's... And again it's this, the 2nd fret, so the last part is essentially... So the whole thing goes like this. And the open string, and the 3rd fret, then you go lower, and after that you can essentially just play the bass notes which come next, which are an open A string, the 5th fret of the E string, and an open E string. While you do that, the second guitar is going to play this. You move over to your D and your G string and you play the 7th fret of the D string and the 5th fret of the G, and you get this. Remember, this is playing while the other guitar plays this, and they change at the same time. But with this guitar the first 2 phases or phrases remain the same. So it's the lower guitar changes, but this remains the same. For the second half, you do this. On the D string you go back to the 5th fret, then you jump 2 strings on the B string and you play the 5th fret as well. 4 times, that's 3 times, sorry. And then you go 1 string lower to the 4th fret of your G string, and you have this. And you can do this little movement on the 5th and the 7th of the G string. Here comes the essential and most complicated part of this riff. What you're playing here is, again, as in the beginning, 7th fret of the D, the 5th fret of the G, and you also play an open B. Then you just move on the D string 2 frets down, and the last part is an open E string, and then the 3rd fret of the D and the 5th fret of the G, and an open B again. So the whole thing in the outro goes this. There you go. Now, since you only have 2 hands and 1 guitar at a time, if you want to play, let's say, both guitars at the same time, you can just do this little change. You can just play the 2nd guitar, and the little change that comes in the bass notes, you can just essentially play like this. And when the change comes, you can just play an open A string, because the note is the same, this note, is the same when we change it down here with the first guitar. So when you combine these, it makes sense. You get a feeling that you're playing both guitars at the same time, and then you play the harder part. Okay, those were the riffs for the verses. And now we get to the cooler part, which is, of course, the distortion part and the chorus. But there's one thing, the electric guitar comes in before the acoustic riffs end. So towards the end of the verse, where you have the part where before I will drown in the lyrics, you play this, an open A with, you know, the second frets of the D and the G, and then you bar the 5th fret of the lower 3 strings, and then play those three strings open. So that would be essentially before I will drown. Yeah. And then we get to the chorus, which goes like this. Again, you start on open A. On the D, you slide to the 7. 5th fret on the G. Back to the 7 on the D. And the 5th fret on the A. And after that you play 5th fret on the E, 5th fret on the E, 5th fret on the D, and 7th fret on the G. Then you move lower with an open E, 3rd fret of the D and 5th fret of the G. And then you start all over again. That's the difference in the second repetition of this riff. Instead of playing, you just slide. The third note is going to be essentially a slide from the 5th to the 7th fret on the G string. Okay? Then you have the same thing, but with a natural harmonic going on, which is on the 5th fret. That should be somewhere just before you go over the, what is this, the bridge pickup? Yeah. And then to end it, you play the 3rd fret of the A string, 5th fret on the D and the G, and you bar the 2nd fret of the lower 3 strings. But if you see my cover, I play this, and then I go on to the cello. You can play that as well. That's all on the G string. Depends on you. And yeah, that's pretty much the song. So have fun, keep rocking. See ya.